What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special edition of NBA Happy Hour here on the Riverfront Podcast Network, part of the Blue Wire Net Media Company. I am Tim Daniel. We are relaunching, getting ready for the new season, and I had to get a really fun guest on. I've been following this guy's work here for a little while. He just recently launched the Los Angeles Lakers Network on YouTube. It's a great channel if you want to see film breakdowns and discussion and internal discussions about basketball. And I just found out is also a Cincinnatian, so it makes it even better. Joining me tonight is Sean Davis. Sean, thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks Tim for having me on. I'm super excited, and yes, almost that time of the year. Football season's fully in the swing of things. And then you got basketball right around the corner. Super excited.
Yeah, we're a red centric channel. We have other shows for the other locals teams,
Mhm.
obviously. So we're very much ready to move on from what the stuff that was. So yeah, 2K came out this week. I am basketball jonesing for sure. So Sean covers the Lakers and does
Mhm.
really good insight on the team. Also has a channel there he covers the league wide as well. Tell everyone a little bit about your channels, kind of your previous work as well. For those who don't know you, I'm an excellent Twitter follow for anyone who is a film head as far as the basketball world.
Yeah. So a lot of the Laker fans know me from Lakers Nation. I spent 3 seasons with the Lakers. Sorry, with Lakers Nation. Excuse me. I always said the Lakers like I played for them. Um, from the Russell Westbrook season, so hell of a time to start to
Yeah.
the end of last season and into the off season a bit too. I stayed through. And then at the start of August, I started the Los Angeles Lakers Network channel. And then I've been actually like podcasting for like 7 years now. Um, so with like the sports headline show, this is like the second iteration of it. YouTube like the suspended the other channel for one reason or another. But this is the second iteration of a sports headline show. That's also on YouTube where it's more league wide NBA stuff. Eventually we're gonna get started with some like football content here soon on that channel and branch out do some other fun stuff. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's really enjoy what I'm able to do and with that and with the coaching stuff that I do as well. So yeah, it's a blast, man. And once again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, happy to have you here. Anytime I can talk, as you know, living in Cincinnati, there are not many NBA fans around. It's like we're like our own breed. So anytime we find some, I like latch to them and have to have conversation with them. So yeah, man, let's just dive right into the Lakers because obviously it's a unique time to say the least between yet another new head coach,
Yeah.
a very limited offseason as far as financially, obviously the LeBron extension, drafting Dalton Connect, drafting Bronny, all those things going on. But it's a team that a lot of people seem to be counting out already. And I understand the reasons they are, but it's a team that also, if you look glass half full, you can kind of make the case it's not as bad as the world's making it out to be in the sense that if you look at last year, uh, Brown, end of January, go
Hmm.
nuts, going this really good run. Obviously, they win the in-season tournament, kind of struggle there for a couple weeks after, and then find their way. D'Angelo Russell for 3 months there was lights out in stretches, and then you have, they're up big in 3 of those games against the Nuggets. The
Yep.
Nuggets, put their foot down and do what they do. I know you've talked about this quite a bit, but honestly, I think that people were just kind of saying the Lakers suck and they're terrible. And when you say why, it's well, they're the Lakers and they suck and they're terrible. But I
Yeah.
wanted to bring you on because I think we can kind of make the case that maybe it's not so terrible. Maybe this team has the ceiling that's higher than many people think it is.
Yeah, so I don't think that like the Lakers are a championship contender right
Right.
now. I truly think they're like a solid 2 million. I think they're like a Dallas Mavericks like trade deadline from last season away from being like where you go get two like real pieces that can play and contribute for you. I think you're that. And like my stance has kind of always been in a vacuum, this is a good team.
Yeah.
Like you with a bad coach, and there's no saying JJ's gonna be a good one, but with a bad coach last season, with a awful run post in season tournament, like flat out, like the lineups, everything, like it could have gone worse like the next month or so for the Lakers, a little bit longer than that, maybe even like you said, it didn't stop until like literally late January. It felt. So you're talking almost a 2 month run, just being bad. and you take all that to account, and you still muscled up 47 wins. Where the year before that, 47 wins gets you like the 4th seed or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, in a vacuum, it's fine. In a vacuum, D'Lo, Austin, Braun, Rui, Vando, AD, Gabe. I know I'm missing a couple other guys. Max, like in a vacuum, that's a really solid 8, right? You have 2 top 10 players on the planet still, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, at least 2 of those guys, I like have no trust in come playoff time. And I'm not going to say those 2 guys are, because I think we all know who 2 of those guys. There's an argument for like another 1 or 2. So that's kind of the problem. Now and then you have like this stuff about JJ Redick. Like, okay, cool. How good is he going to be year 1? We don't know, right? You're relying as high as I am on Max Christie, relying on him to step in and really contribute. I think he's ready personally. I think when he's gotten opportunity, and it's been slim, but when he's gone, he's produced and done his role really, really well. Excuse me. But again, I don't think this is a championship contender, but I think that ESPN projection had them 11th, which I think is crazy. For the Sports Headlines Show YouTube channel, I'm working on like an in-depth power ranking series or whatever, and covering the whole league. Each team gets their own episode, super in depth. Like I think the shortest episode is like 45 minutes, and that's because it was the Brooklyn Nets, and I can only talk about the Nets for so long.
Number 1 in the Cooper Flag lottery, and
end episode.
Right, yeah, and scene.
Not to spoil it, but like I have the Lakers like firmly in the playoff race. As long as like Bron and AD are healthy, there's no shot this team is the 11th best team in the West, and there's just no way. You cannot convince me of that. You can convince me of them being like a 2nd tier team in the West, like below OKC. I still consider Denver as the 1st tier contender. Minnesota still. I don't know really what to do with Dallas. If there was like a 1B tier, I would put Dallas in that tier probably. But like, if you want to sell me on that, then sure. But you can't sell me on this team being like the 11th or 12th best team in the West. There's just no way.
Yeah, I mean,
unless again, catastrophic injury happens. Catastrophic injury happens, then this team is awful. But if they're healthy, they're a top 6 team.
Yeah, you can probably make the case that the Lakers have the biggest gap between ceiling and floor of any NBA team.
Like in the West or in general?
I would probably in the West, yeah, but in the general, you could probably make an argument for some teams, but you know, everything goes really well, and LeBron and AD are still all NBA, and D'Lo does.
Ironically, like Cleveland, I could see like a Cleveland floor being pretty low.
I could too. Yeah,
like if everything bottoms out, like you trade DG, I don't know. Like I don't know. The Cleveland situation could get weird. I was gonna say Charlotte, but like Charlotte's ceiling is that high, but their floor is pretty low.
Yeah, it's very low. Yeah, though I do love Brandon Miller, and I do love LaMelo, obviously, like everyone. So
yeah, maybe LA does have like the biggest gap between their ceiling, but like their floor is still what, like at worst, like let's say you repeat 21-22 season, like that's what 35 win team still. Where like their ceiling is, you're not going to see the ceiling in the regular season. The ceiling is going to come playoff time if you're able to make a move. So I don't know. That's interesting. I have to think about that.
Yeah, I definitely. And it's like I said, it's the beauty of these conversations we have. I feel like the Olympics really kind of boosted some of that optimism we were kind of talking about, in the sense that obviously we know these are 2 guys who were all NBA last year, but they were 2 of the 4 best players on the Olympic team. LeBron obviously being the best player, getting the MVP of the global games. But I think that almost kind of made Laker fans kind of have a little bit of a breath of hope. And I'm not saying that to say it's a bad thing, but I think it was kind of really nice, reassuring feeling, because if at least for 2 weeks they had like maybe it's not going to be so bad after all. And now it's like, all right, so you're going from Steph Curry to Dalton Connect and whatever. And it's like, I really like him actually, but I kind of felt like that was kind of a really unique dynamic that people were like, maybe we have a chance to. I think Warriors fans did it too, but I think the Warriors, after Steph and Draymond, it gets a little fishy as well.
Yeah. The Olympics were so fun. Like seeing AD and Bron like still be able to play at that level. I mean, AD he's always able to do that, I think. But Bron, seeing like that from him in the Olympics was like absurd. And I mean, hey, if Draymond wants to go on another punching spree, then hopefully this one will punch Steph down to LA somehow. I don't think it happens, but one can dream.
Yeah, I mean, we had so much fun with it that it was like almost like I needed it. I joked that about 2K coming out. The first game I played was the Olympic team against like the Hornets. 'Cause I was like, I have to feel it still. It was so fun for a
Easy
month
win.
there. Yeah, easy
Yeah.
W. Just running high pick and rolls. It was great. Um, I want to kind of get to a couple different players because I think on the Lakers network, you've done a really good job with your film breakdown. And the Rui versus Vando conversation is one that comes up quite a bit. And you actually did a breakdown of what the benefits are for both sides. Definitely a video you should worth checking out if you get a moment, if you're listening to the show here. But I thought your breakdown was really perfect. And one of the things I really liked is when you talked about Jared Vanderbilt, your conversation was not just like, well, yeah, he's a really good rebounder and he's really physical and he boxes out. It was, here's how you can effectively use him offensively. And you mentioned short rolls, you mentioned grenades, you mentioned all these different things, which was like the way basketball media should be, for by the way. And I thought that was really, really, really cool insight. When you look at this team, and I guess there's some discussions about Vando still potentially not being ready for the season to start. Shocking, I know. But when you look at this kind of team goes, like, who are some of those other guys we need to really see for the Lakers in your eyes? Just kind of go to this because we know what Reeves is, we know LeBron, we know AD, we know D'Angelo Russell, and like
Yeah.
you mentioned, you're high on Max Christie. I am as well. And obviously, Dalton Connect, the fact they got him in the middle of the first round is a miracle.
Yeah.
But what's kind of some of the guys you kind of could potentially see kind of stepping up that Lakers fans hadn't had a chance to really get an opportunity to see much of?
If Christian would like bounce back, it wouldn't surprise me. Now if Christian Wood is kind of just like this, it also would have surprised me. He's like a really, really volatile player, and he kind of like always has been throughout his career. Um, that would be like the one guy that, like Laker fans that I think aren't really high. I think as a fan base, we're pretty high on Don Connect. I mean, like, why shouldn't we? Right? I had him 11th on my board, and
Yeah, I had him around there myself.
I had him going as early as like 6. Oh wait, no. Where was wherever Charlotte was at? That no, Detroit. I had him going as early as like 5
5.
in some
Yeah.
mocks. Depending on like how the board felt. So like you get a guy that I felt could have at the very easily been like a top 8 pick, even though I had him like a slightly lower on my board. You got that at 17. Like that's incredible. I think a lot of the fan base is pretty excited to see what Max looks like. I would say Gabe, but I also think like a lot of the fan base recognizes like, hey, look, if you are gonna do something, can like Gabe give you 70% of what he was in Miami,
Yeah.
please? Like particularly in that finals run that they went on back in 23. Um, that's I think all I got really because like some of the other guys I'm just like not that high on or like not really sure they're gonna play like Cam Reddish. I've never really been the biggest Cam Reddish
Yeah.
guy. He had that fun stretch. I want to say like during around the in-season tournament. Yeah, it would have been around that time. He had a really fun stretch. Like he's a good
Yeah.
defensive playmaker and whatever, but like that shot is just so inconsistent. And inconsistent is probably being like nice.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
nice.
um, Jackson Hayes, like he can do some stuff. He's a vertical floor spacer because of the lob catching ability. But it really Jackson Hayes, it depends on like how JJ uses him defensively. I think because I'm of the thought process of that like I don't think Darvin utilized them well at all defensively. Used them a lot as a drop big where like Jackson Hayes is a more switch heavy big. You can use him in some hedging and things like that. He's not a drop coverage big. Let AD do that. And there wasn't a lot of just something Darvin to do a good job of. So I would say like again, Gabe, Christian Wood, those are probably the two guys that maybe aren't getting enough love. Dalton and Max, I think a lot of the fan base are have pretty high expectations for those guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think so I was really high on Maxwell Lewis when he was coming out of Pepperdine. I really liked
Yeah,
him. But I thought, oh man, the Lakers got him in the second round. This is gonna be great. And we're still waiting on that great portion that I had aforementioned.
yeah,
Had some moments in summer league this year. You're gonna got to give him that at least. Obviously, my guy Quincy Oliveri. I got to shout the Xavier Musketeer guy playing on the Exhibit 10 deal. So
glad I'm not wearing my UC shirt then.
that's all right. That's all right. We have plenty of UC people who work on the network. So, all right. So JJ Redick is kind of obviously the hot button conversation,
Sure.
and rightfully so.
Yeah.
there's I feel like my hot take is almost that we're at the point now because everyone's expecting to fail that I kind of think he's going to succeed. It may not be right away, but his basketball IQ, obviously, I think he's certainly going to know how to run an offense. We don't know what kind of offense he's going to run by any means or anything like that. He hasn't really driven super deep in X's and O's, but he knows basketball, and I think that's something you can kind of rely on. But I also think the sense that he is a younger coach, he knows all these guys really well, not just from being in the league and podcasting with these guys, but he's going to have people interested in playing for him down the stretch when the Lakers have a little bit more financial cushion. So I almost kind of feel like, I don't know if I would go as far as the rumored Pat Riley-esque that was going around, but I do think he's going to end up being a pretty good basketball coach just for the sake of his IQ. And he was a pretty solid basketball player for a long time. And he's pretty relatable and has a really good relationship guy. I think it's going to be a pretty decent run.
I think the best thing, and I always recommend this interview. This is like engraved in my head almost. The JJ Redick was on an episode of the Pivot podcast, so like Ryan Clark. I always say Channing Tatum in my head. Channing Crowder.
I do the
Channing
same
Crowder,
thing. Yeah.
Fred Taylor. And I think first off, I think those guys are awesome. I think they're brilliant or whatever, brilliant storytellers and just podcasters in general. But that's one of my favorite podcast episodes ever of theirs. And JJ's on the show. And my immediate reaction, I want to say this before he got the job. My immediate reaction was, if he does get the job, at the very least, I think he like can be relatable, like kind of like you said, right? I think, and I think he can provide his perspective, because I think that one of the biggest, one of the most important things about coaching or whatever from experience is just like offering your perspective. That's all you're doing to a certain extent, right? Based off your experiences, your experiences, your knowledge or whatever, right? And then like also tying that in with like being able to relate to other people that are, have different backgrounds than you and things like that. And that was like my biggest takeaway from the interview was like, oh, okay, like at the very least, he could be the biggest idiot in terms of X's and O's or whatever. I think he really, really relates to people. Super good communicator, I think. And he's going to, at the very least, provide his perspective. And that's going to help players buy into him. That's why it's so important, I think, to be able to provide your, like, to correctly provide your perspective, because that's going to be the way that the players buy into you as a person. So, I don't know what he's going to be as an actual coach, like on the floor or whatever. We don't know that. I really hope, this is why I understand why he didn't coach in summer league. I really hope that we don't over exaggerate and overreact to preseason games and like his style of coaching in the preseason. That's why I'm so glad he didn't coach in summer league, because it would have just been unnecessary.
Yeah.
It is almost a lose-lose if he had coached in summer league, because like every single thing would have been critiqued, and you don't need that like unnecessarily like bad publicity or whatever. But I'm excited for JJ. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think he said all the right things. Like, I don't think he said anything wrong. Like I said, really good communicator. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I loved in his press conference when he was kind of tongue in cheek, but he was like, yeah, it's like LeBron shot 40% from threes last year. I'm going to make him shoot more threes. It's going to be a thing. And I was like, I appreciate that. I like that as well. The staff, obviously getting guys like Nate McMillan and Terry Stotts. I think Nate McMillan is probably a really, really good coach, defensive coach to get for Anthony Davis, in the sense of
Scott Brooks.
Sorry, I got them mixed up.
I'm about to say that. Wait.
Breaking news here on the happy hour.
Terry Stotts got the job.
Yeah, but Scott Brooks and Nate McMillan kind of coming on staff as well, I think would be, obviously that's going to have the beneficial. I think it'll be better than Mike D'Antoni on Steve Nash's staff, because I don't think his coach player's going to get him fired for not playing a certain player. So that should go pretty well. All joking aside, Anthony Davis situation here. So obviously we know he's the man. He's phenomenal, and he does so many things well. He just had his, a major health season finally, where we got to see him for quite a bit. Does all NBA, gets a gold medal. Do you think this is finally the year that he's finally realistically, deservedly in the defensive player of the year conversation? Do you think maybe these postseasons finally took Rudy Gobert out of the talks?
I think it's not even the postseason. I think it's just, if there's ever a time for voter fatigue to like show up, it would be now.
Yeah.
Like my point with Rudy is I don't think he's the best defender in the league. I think that title goes to like one of AD or Bam, and it really is just like pick your preference, honestly. Like if you want the all versatile, insane athlete guy, I'm not saying like AD isn't that, but like if you want insane versatility, all right, cool, get Bam with like you turn down the rim protection sliders. If you want insane rim protection and like slightly turn down the versatility sliders, okay, cool, get AD. Is like I said, it's just pick your poison. The fact that, you know, those two guys might never win a defensive player of the year, I think is ridiculous.
Right.
And that's kind of my point with Rudy is like, he's just not a 4-time defensive player of the year type of guy. And that's not taking away, because I think he's still one of the 5 best defenders in the league. And despite the fact that, oh my gosh, the best offensive player, in my opinion, in the league, and Luka Doncic fried him in space. Oh no, that means he sucks. No, that means that the best offensive player in the league fried him in space. It's not like, I'm not going to knock him for that. And that just shows like what he's not good at. And that's okay. But like, if you put him in a situation where he can like do what he's good at, then, oh, he's elite at that one thing or whatever, which is like being a drop big and being, you know, that rim protector or whatever, you know, and that's why like teams have been able to drag him out of the paint. That's why those teams have had success, because those other teams that Rui's been on, they don't have like that secondary rim protector. Like, oh, okay, Rui's out of the paint. Well, all right, now it's just gonna be layup, or paint touch paint, you know. So, but anyway, to the AD question about like Depoy, I hope so. If there was ever a year, it would have to be this year, because I think fairly soon we're going to get one of those Wemby runs where it's MVP Depoy. I mean, he's almost a sure lock for most improved player, just based off how the award works. Which is dumb. Like Tyrese Maxey, love him. Should not have won most improved player last season. I said on a podcast on one of my channels, I said, like, look, if there was an award called the Everyone Expected Him to Break Out award, that would be Tyrese Maxey. Like, everybody expected that one. I mean, Kobe White, for example, is probably more deserving for most improved, because he actually like took that like a massive step. With Tyrese, not knocking him, like his was more, okay, Harden's gone, so the ball's in my hands more. Like that's really what happened there. And again, kudos to him, he deserves it. But yeah, if there was ever a year for AD to do it, it'd be this year. I think he's the best defensive player on the planet, and he's this Lakers defense. So I hope he gets the credit he deserves finally.
Yeah, I actually covered the Bulls last year for on tap, so I watched a lot of Kobe White, and I can tell you he's
fun. He's good.
Really, really fun, man. Really fun seeing that growth. Realistically, how many times do you think we'll see the South Bay Lakers on the NBA network this year?
South Bay Lakers on the NBA network?
Because Bronny's going to probably be playing quite a bit down there.
Oh. I mean, if I were them, I would do it a lot. If I was the NBA, mean, because at the very least, you have all LeBron haters tune in and, you know, slander LeBron for his son being good or bad or whatever. So I would do it.
The most random, weirdest.
If I'm the NBA, I'm putting South Bay Lakers on NBA TV every night.
Nightly, yeah. Yeah. Or like calling the league and being like, he's got to play 10, at least 15, 20 NBA games. Yeah. We got to make sure we get this out of him. He's kind of become like a cheat code in 2K. I don't know if you've seen these videos going around, because his shot release is like super clean in the game. So
I've seen like a clip about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So yeah, we'll just make sure we kind of got a little bit of Laker talk in there, and then you were kind of one of the guys I had to get for that as well. I don't think it's fun to kind of do the whole like how many games they're going to win or anything like that, because I think that's silly at this point, because it's NBA regular season games. I will kind of see, you haven't put a video out on this yet, so if I'm spoiling something, you can tell me here on air. But I listened to the Locked On Laker guys today talk about the whole Zach LaVine thing.
Shout out to those guys.
Love those dudes, Brian and Andy. It's a fun show to listen to on the day-to-day basis. And I think the conversation kind of is one of those ones too, where there's certainly pluses and minuses. And the plus being that he's uber athletic, and he, when healthy, can make shots and can dunk, obviously. When he's not healthy, he's a nightmare. And I know what his contract is. And defensively, he's probably not better than D'Angelo Russell, who you already have, who can't really play a whole lot of defense. It might be a coin flip, but for you, what end do you kind of lean on? Because I think if they do something where the Bulls might have to buy him out to get him off the team by the trade deadline because there's just no one that's going to make that deal, then yeah, I think a lot of teams would be really interested in having him. But I don't know if I am in the trade these 3 or 4 mediocre guys for Zach LaVine department. Where are you at on this?
I don't think buyout makes sense logistically, especially because I think if Zach were to agree to a buyout, he would have to already have a destination in mind.
True. Yeah.
And for the Lakers, for example, because of the new CBA, I don't think if you're a first tier apron team, I have to go back and fact check. I don't think if you're a first tier apron team, you can sign anybody off a buyout market that contract is larger than a non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which would be around $13 million. So they would be out of the Zach LaVine race instantly. And a lot of the top contenders would be out of the Zach LaVine race. So I don't even think Zach would agree to a buyout. So and that might have just been a hypothetical, but just stating that.
It was.
I
think I appreciate that.
Yeah. After, like I said, I'm doing my in-depth power ranking series, after getting around to the Bulls and some of the Bulls tape and stuff like that. I think LaVine purely as a talent is kind of gone underrated, and justifiably so. The situation that has sucked essentially since the moment Lonzo Ball got hurt. And from that moment on, it's been just straight downhill from there. And LaVine has been the healthiest and things like that. I think efficiency wise, if I remember correctly, this year was a little bit of a down year efficiency wise compared to last season and the year before that as well. But insane mid-range pull-up shooter, has the offensive scheme versatility that I would look for if I'm targeting a guy to play next to Bron and AD, where you can run them in heavy dosages off the ball. You can have them be your primary, creator. You can have them be one of your closers down the stretch. And hey, look, all right, Bron maybe he's not feeling it tonight in terms of the shot, maybe not playing well, whatever. All right, Zach will feed you touches in the fourth. Here, go cook, right? I completely understand the concerns. The contract sucks, injury prone. And I think the biggest problem is, and this is from people that I've talked to and stuff like that. The rumor was you get a first with Zach LaVine potentially, right? Bulls fans deny this heavily, whatever. Let's say hypothetically, Zach LaVine plus a first. The problem is, it's not that first, at least immediately, you're essentially still saying it's Zach LaVine with this team and we're kind of done with making moves or whatever, because you're trading all of your tradable salaries at that point, because Zach said $47 million. So to get there, you're talking legit D'Lo at 18 and a half, I think, Rui at 17, and then one of Gabe or Vando to even get there. Okay, so cool. You have another tradable first, but you have one tradable contract left. So, because you're not trading Austin unless you're getting a major guy.
Right.
So, yeah. So, I don't know. It gets weird. So, I completely understand it and the concerns of why I would. It really is not even because you can sell me on the talent. If you told me pure talent, Zach LaVine for, I don't know, Rui, D'Lo, and Gabe, hell yeah. I would solely talent. I would probably do that. I get more worried about the health, the contract, and you're kind of done in terms of moves. That's where I'm more worried about, less than the talent and things like that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So I just that was kind of I know that conversation comes around quite a bit. Yeah, I'm really I'm excited to see how things shake out for the Lakers, because I think it's going to be a story one way or another. So I'm kind of really genuinely curious to see about how this can all work out. I just kind of feel better about it, I think, than most. That's why I wanted to make sure we got a chance to kind of shoot about it. So being in the market we're in, obviously, we have a few NBA teams around us. I want to kind of get your thoughts. You kind of touched on a little bit earlier in the show about the Cavs. So I'm going to be covering the Cavs this year. I'm going to be doing a show on the Cavs this year. Pretty excited about that. And yeah, man. So I got to go up there and see them play Boston. I'll be up there the 30th to see them play the Lakers. Funny enough.
There you go.
Yeah, my wife's family lives up there, so I try to go up quite a bit for games. And I'm kind of feeling the same way about the Cavs and the Lakers, in the sense that they're probably second or third tier Eastern Conference team. But if everything goes well with those first 4 guys, they could be really, really good. If Kenny Atkinson gets Evan Mobley to take that step we all think he can take, I'm really excited about them, and I like them getting Jalen Tyson a lot with the pick they got. But they're in such a crowded situation where realistically, you're probably not taking them obviously against Boston. You're not taking them against Philly or New York. But they're a team that if all things go well, and I know that's asking a lot health wise from guys like Mitchell and Garland,
Mhm.
I think it's a team that could really kind of surprise some people. What are your thoughts on the Cavs so far?
So this is the cool part about like covering the rest of the league. I get to be like completely unbiased with the rest of the league and like partially biased towards the
Sure.
Lakers.
Yeah.
Um, I have a really weird time like kind of talking about the Cavs because like they're in such a weird spot organizationally, in my opinion, and and just in general. Like I think there's no denying that Donovan Mitchell's awesome, like top 20 player on the planet, I think.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I still wonder, can Donovan Mitchell be your best player on a championship team, regardless of the fact that he's a top 20 player? That I think that's a fair question to ask.
For sure.
Darius Garland, one of the projects I'm working on, is like a top 25, players under the age of 25 in the league. And I probably rank Garland too low than he probably should be. And that's why I think ultimately, I think it should be best for all parties to like just separate at some point. Because I mean, this is now the second situation where it's like, okay, cool. Darius Garland plus another guard that needs the ball in his hand is not working out. And if I'm the Cavs, I'm choosing this time Donovan Mitchell over Darius Garland. And I think like the archetype of Darius Garland, I mean, maybe, yeah, he is a smaller guard, but a lead ball handler that's a great playmaker, really shifty guy that can shoot the three. I think teams would take that.
For sure.
And if he's your lead ball handler, I think he would leave and immediately get back to all-star like form. So that whole situation is weird. Evan Mobley, I like, and he's insane defender. Like he's right up there for sure for me, like top 10 defender in the league for sure. The offense is ever so slowly coming around with Evan Mobley. And I think for the evolution of this Cavs team, I think they need him to be able to be consistently a 5, if that's ever like possible. Because I know they love Jarrett. They just paid Jarrett Allen too, unless I'm like forgetting something. Right. So you just extend Jarrett Allen, which
they extended all three of those guys. Yeah.
You extended all three. I'm like, okay, Jarrett's fun. But again, we're talking about ceiling for this Cavs team. I don't think it's with Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley 2-man lineups, because Mobley's never going to become like that, in my opinion, at least. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if Evan Mobley became like that good of a shooter to where Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen together for 35 minutes a night is like not a drain, right?
Sure.
Defensively, they'll be good. Like I'm still like not worried about what is going on with Isaac. Like, are they just not going to bring Isaac Okoro back like at all?
I don't know, man. They brought Tristan Thompson back today, so
Hey, I don't know what
9 lives, man. 9 lives.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Again, I just kind of feel weird about the Cavs. Like I think they're a good team. I have no doubt that they'll make the playoffs. But like in my opinion, I think I would take Boston over them. I would take Milwaukee, like the obvious Boston, Philly, New York. I would take Milwaukee over them still, obviously. I mean, I'm taking Indiana over them probably, I think.
Are you?
I'm taking Indiana over Cleveland.
Okay.
And then it's like you're back in the same mix of teams, like you, Miami, and Orlando again. So I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. And that's just me. I don't want to be like super negative on your show.
No, not by all means, man.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel weird about the Cavs. If the Cavs come out are like the third best team in the East again, it would not surprise me though.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at too, because I think with bringing in Kenny Atkinson, I think the offense instantly improves. It's just, can they keep?
I mean, it was just so bad last season.
Like, so bad, man. And you mentioned, Mobley's offense is coming around. He was top 10 in the league in points per games in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So that was kind of something where it jumps out. And I'm pretty high on Evan Mobley, like you mentioned, all-worldly defender. I think has the tools to be a really good offensive player, but I'm with you. I think it has to be your everyday 5. You kind of mentioned, I think their best two-man lineups last year were Mitchell and Allen. So I think that changes quite a bit with Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah.
They have good bench players, but you mentioned Isaac Okoro, that weird thing. the Isaac Okoro thing also makes things weird with Georges Niang, with Karis LeVert, and it's like kind of figuring all that out. And
Yeah.
Okoro and LeVert kind of, fluctuated so much in the starting lineup last year that,
Yeah.
yeah,
And, and that's another reason why too. I'm just like, okay, what are we doing?
right.
Like you have the Isaac Okoro thing. You have, in my opinion, the fact that I don't think Mitchell and Garland come playoff time, especially, is just going to work.
I'm with you that, yeah.
Mobley not being your long-term 5, like there's just, I think, a lot of uncertainty / things that I'm barely confident on not working. So I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think we all genuinely like Max Strus as a basketball player, but what the
I love
Cavs lean on him
Strus.
to do is like,
Yeah.
it's maybe a little over his head, but yeah, dude, like can shoot 40% from 3 pretty easily. It's pretty fun. You
They
did
hit
mention
game winners from 3/4 court.
Yeah. So I went to game 4 in the Celtics series. It was the first game Mitchell was out.
Okay.
And basically, so
That's a 30-point Garland game, or that's a 30
yeah,
point?
yeah,
Okay.
where he went nuts in the fourth quarter. They were down
Yeah.
15, and LeBron was like sitting courtside.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
And people thought LeBron was coming back.
I thought it was either.
I just think Bron was enjoying playoff basketball.
Yeah, there was it was that, and then some people were like behind me were like, "Is he trying to scout Garland for the Lakers?" It's like, the Lakers books. That's gonna take a lot. But you mentioned you're higher on the Pacers than the Cavs, and I think, just went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Tyrese Halliburton, before he got injured, was unreal.
Second best point guard in the league.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot I like about this team, for sure. Probably better for, if they are better than the Cavs, they'll like that because they have the Cavs first round pick this year from the Karis LeVert trade. So for you, what is the kind of the thing that jumps out to you the most about the Pacers? Is it, just the Halliburtons and the Miles Turners and the longevity and the kind of the camaraderie they've built, or is it more just kind of you like their talent overall?
I think in this, I don't want this to sound lazy, but it's going to. But this is just a perfect way to say it. Their team just makes more sense, sure. Right? Where Andrew Nembhard's such a good fit to Hallie. He's such a perfect fit next to Halliburton. And actually, I would like to see, Nembhard kind of take some of the load. Not all, Hallie's insane, but we can, if I'm the Pacers, you can almost load manage Hallie a little bit in game, load manage him a little bit and help him out by, okay, cool. Andrew Nembhard is also a great playmaker and can also kind of push tempo. Those, game 3 and game 4 against Boston in the conference finals, they had no business being in those games. Boston should have just blown the brakes off them and won by 30 twice. And Andrew Nembhard put that team on his back. Pascal, the Pascal thing's probably the one thing where I look at Indiana and I say, I don't know, this still feels kind of weird. But I mean, Obi had an insane year last season. Glad he was able to get paid. Miles is probably, again, this is gonna sound weird, he's the perfect description of a good center in the NBA.
He really is. Yeah,
he's good. Jarris Walker, who I loved in the 23 draft class, is awesome. Hopefully he gets more opportunities this season. TJ McConnell, the best backup point guard in the league, hands down. Carlisle's a good coach, insane offense in mind, especially.
And I like Ben Shepherd too.
Ben Shepherd's it's nice. I'm trying to think of their backup big spot. I can't think of it. Is it still Isaiah Jackson?
It's Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman.
That's right. Yeah, I like Ijax. James Wiseman is just another reminder of how the Warriors have failed Steph Curry, but neither here nor there. And again, they're coming out the Eastern Conference Finals run. Hallie was, like I said, a top 3 point guard on the planet before the injury. And I think you can really tell how much the injury bothered him.
Yeah. For sure.
Now, at the same time, it's a hamstring injury, and the soft tissue injury, especially with the hamstring, can be this reoccurring thing. So to a certain extent, he kind of has to prove that it's not going to be this reoccurring thing, like you've seen with the Hardens and the Dames, right? But those guys are also well advanced into their careers. Like Chris Paul, probably the perfect example of a hamstring injury. Kind of being this reoccurring issue, especially remember Chris Paul and the Clippers? Every other week, it was a hamstring pull or strain or whatever.
It was clockwork that second round of the playoffs, he would always miss game 3 and game 4.
Yes, because of a hamstring injury.
Yeah. Yep.
clockwork. Like, wasn't that the injury like kept him out of the Rockets Warriors series?
Dude, so
In
they're up.
18?
Yeah, they're up
They're
3-2
up 3-2,
on the
and it's a
Warriors. And he
hamstring
gets hurt at the
injury.
end of the game, and this is game 6 and 7. They lose.
Like, come on, bro. So I mean, he kind of has to prove that it's not going to be like this reoccurring thing, like I said. But I mean, like I said, in my opinion, that team just makes more sense. I think. Yeah, I just trust Indiana more probably. I trust their guys more, fitting together and making sense more than I do with Cleveland.
Yeah, and one name we didn't mention, I kind of suspect Ben Matherin's going to be really good this year.
I don't know what to do with Ben Matherin, but if we're going back to like the 2022 draft, I loved him, and I think his skill set's really cool. They could use like a microwavable scorer off the bench, like, hey, go get a bucket and play next to Hallie or to TJ. So yeah, I mean, they have a legit 10 guys that could probably I'm not gonna go that far. They have a legit 8 guys that could probably start anywhere in the league. Along with a really good coach. Coming off the Eastern Conference Finals run, that some people are rightfully so going to call fluky because no Giannis, no Dame for majority of that first round series. No Brunson for game 7 of that series. OG was dealing with all his injuries. I mean, the Knicks just got
Halliburton was also hurt as they're moving forward. And
yeah, so I don't know. That was a weird playoff run. Like just with all the injuries that dealt with themselves and their opposing teams, but Indiana's good. Indiana's really, really good. They don't get enough credit.
Yeah, I kind of was surprised that they moved on from Jalen Smith, but obviously the contract the Bulls gave him, I don't blame them for not matching that. But I think they're going to be really, really solid. All right, I will end the show on this, Sean. And you're allowed to say a team other than the Memphis Grizzlies, like everyone's saying in this circumstance. But under the radar NBA team, you can see kind of being surprising some people and making a good run. I joke about Memphis, obviously, because everyone's like the right reasons.
I'm about to say, I don't think that's under the radar. I think we're all just it's the Tyrese Maxey Award where I know everybody's like predicting this to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but I don't know. Maybe things will take a step back now that GG Jackson broke his foot, which sucks, by the way.
Which sucks. GG was fun last year. Hope he gets back.
It was awesome. Yeah.
But you said team that is under the radar that I think can surprise some people.
You think it'd be sneaky good? Yeah.
This is tough. Because I've spent like so much time like preparing for the power ranking series. Like I'm thinking like under the radar teams, but like it's hard because I'm like almost like competing against myself. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. And this might be a weird answer. I don't know if there is a under the radar team right now. Because I think all the teams I would say, I'm like, no, like there's like Houston. Okay, I think there's a lot of people that are like buying the Houston stock, and rightfully so, right? Orlando, a lot of people are buying the Orlando stock, and I am too. But I have the apologies by me, like rightfully so. The one team that I don't really know where everybody's at on them, so I guess I'll say them. And I'm gonna try not to like throw up when I say it. Is like the Pelicans. Sure. I have kind of a weird vibe on them, and I don't know what to do with them. But like, I have flashbacks to that Zion 40 piece in 3.5 quarters on the Lakers in the play-in tournament, and think, oh my God, please stay healthy. I think they gotta figure out what they're gonna do with BI, and once like I get more clarity on that. And I'll probably have a little bit of a better idea, but Herb Jones is the best non-big defender in the league. He is their defense. Trey Murphy's fun as hell.
Love Trey Murphy.
They have some fun role players. Like I was a big Jordan Hawkins fan. I like Yves Missi, and I think if for example somehow Yves Missi is able to be like a starter for them by the end of the year, then I'll really, really like how I feel about the Pelicans, because Zion is probably their 5 right now, which I just don't know if that's ideal or not. More so defensively. Offensively, like I think that would be ideal. I mean, perfect situation is like you put a Brook Lopez next to him, like a stretch 5.
That's a great point.
But another team I don't really know what to do with them is like Miami. I mean, it's just hard to not give Spo and Jimmy and Bam their credit.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're deep. Like Tyler's a good player. Duncan had a career like resurgence last season after a really, really bad 22-23 season. He kind of had a re-breakout last year. Especially after them losing Struz. They lose Caleb Martin this summer too. I think he's in Philly now, if I
Yep.
recall correctly.
Yeah,
But
I
like
love that pickup for them. Yeah.
yeah, Jaime's stupid fun. Khalil Ware had an insane summer,
What a
and
steal.
like yeah, and actually I've never felt like better about a player more than because Khalil Ware was one of those guys during the draft season. It's like, ooh, I just don't know. You hear the motor stuff, you hear this and that, and those are all credible things. And then you see him get drafted by Miami, and you go, oh, okay,
Right,
must
yeah,
not
you're
be
like,
that much of
okay.
it.
Yeah.
must not be that big of an issue anymore. Because if you took out like the motor, which again was very credible things, like you go watch a Khalil Ware game and it's very obvious there were motor concerns. But if you like took that out of the frame, he would have been a top 10 player on my board probably. So again, like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. Not worried anymore. Khalil Ware goes to Miami. I don't like their guard room, but like I said, like Jimmy, Bam, and Spo. I mean, it's just hard to doubt those guys. And one last one. This one's like solely based off health. Charlotte. That's solely based off health. If LaMelo can finally play more than 50 games and Mark Williams is healthy, and like I broke them down in a Power Rankings episode because they were pretty recent. And I just posed the question like, what if Brandon Miller's just an all-star this year? Because he's good.
He's really good.
He's good.
Yeah, he's really good.
They're definitely gonna be a league pass team for me. I buy all the Charles Lee stock. I mean, everything you hear about Charles Lee is just the best. They got some good players. I still think they're like a year or two away, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So those would be my three very, very weird teams, but those would be my three.
So, all right, I want to kind of touch on a few things you mentioned there. So you mentioned Miami.
Yep.
I think Bam's going to get the Team USA rub. I think he's the guy that every time there's like a guy that plays on the Olympic team, he goes to the next season, just goes crazy and like has this big step forward. I think that's Bam. I think he's going to be the guy because all the guys that played really well for Team USA are already established, like who they are or like at the end of their careers.
Yeah.
And he's obviously had great years, but I think he's going to be the guy that kind of becomes like the next like takes that step forward from that time around the Olympic team. I know a lot of people say Anthony Edwards, but I think we kind of just
I think again like Tyrese Maxey Award.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody's predicting that.
Yeah,
I hate that. Yeah,
I'm with you. You mentioned Orlando.
Yeah,
I think they're gonna be. I think they're another team I could see maybe winning a round. I mean, they were pretty close to Cleveland last year, obviously, but I love the KCP pickup. I think it's a fantastic
one of the best pickups of the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I just want to make sure I got those in because you reminded me of all that stuff there. But Charlotte. So really fun. I also agree league pass team. I love Mark Williams. I love Brandon Miller.
Please stay healthy.
Yes. I don't know how much I love Tijan Salon.
I hated that pick.
I'm glad we're on the same page here.
This is back-to-back years of me hating Charlotte picks. And it's not like because I didn't like Brandon Miller. It's because I was severely high on Scoot Anderson and I ripped him to shreds for it. So, hey, maybe like I ripped him to shreds for this Salon pick this year. And like he turns out to be a starter for them in a few years. So, hey. At that point, I just have to give Charlotte credit and stop critiquing the draft picks.
Yeah. I mean, those of us who cover the draft are always going to have the ones that look bad, right? There's no way you're going to go perfect. And any even draft, you're going to have ones. When the Bulls traded the picks for Lauri Markkanen, I literally was like, what the hell are they doing? And look at them now. So, Sean, this was really fun, man. I probably had more time than I asked of you, so I really appreciate you hanging out with me on a Friday night and talking some hoops with me. Before we get out of here, I know we've mentioned throughout the show, shout out your channel, shout out your social medias where people can talk some hoops with you, see your film breakdowns. I love your work, so I just want to make sure we get it out there for the world to see.
Yeah, Tim, thanks a lot. And no worries about the time ever. I mean, as you can see, I can talk a lot, especially about basketball or sports in general. Sports Headline Show for NBA content as a whole, or NFL content here coming up soon. That's where you can find and my NBA draft stuff, NBA content as a whole, film breakdowns, and then Los Angeles Lakers Network also on YouTube, where solely Lakers stuff. So if you're a Laker fan, that's probably where you're going to lean more towards. But if you're an NBA fan, you like talking about all the different teams and things like that, Sports Headline Show and NFL stuff there too. And we'll get to that here soon. Super excited to be able to talk about that here in the future.
You got a Bengals record prediction?
I think I did one. One of my best friends, a Bengals. I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm a Chargers fan, but I talked about this with one of my best friends who's a Bengals fan. I think I said 11-6.
That's about where I'm at too. Yeah.
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 Burrow. I mean, Burrow's healthy. I think he's the second best quarterback. I mean, second or third. It's between him and Josh Allen.
It's 2. Let's just be honest, Sean.
All right, 2. My bad. It's 2.
I have to.
He's the only one to beat Mahomes out of that group, so we'll use that as a tiebreaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, only one to beat Mahomes when it matters. We'll use that as a
tiebreaker. Yeah. I mean, I see the Josh Allen argument on it wasn't his fault they gave up the points with 7 seconds left. But yeah, I'm with you. We're gonna go and wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight on the happy hour. On behalf of Sean Davis hanging out, this is Tim Daniel. We will see you all very soon.